Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Mates Review. I am Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Oh,
Hey man, lovely to see you. So,
oh, I see
today we
it.
have another mini review of a recent Amazon Prime exclusive release, and it's called The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, which coincidentally stars Catherine Newton, who we also saw in a film recently, Freaky. You should check that out. But yeah, another Amazon Prime exclusive for you guys, similar to Songbird. So I'm going to pass over to Cam to explain what this movie's about. So yeah, off to you, mate.
Well, of course, in this review, we'll be talking about non-spoilers and spoilers. I don't want to give too much away, but we enter the film, and there's a pre-existing time loop within the film, and this guy Mark has gotten very adjusted to living within the means of this day repeating every day, and then he notices a little difference, something's afoot.
He does
That
something's wrong.
there's one difference that appears within his universe, and that's the introduction of a new person, Margaret, who he's never seen before. And then this film is about them, finding the things to appreciate in this, in these unprecedented circumstances. Finding these little things to appreciate, the tiny perfect things.
Tiny Perfect Things, exactly. This is going to be, I think, one of my favorite reviews. I absolutely love this film. But yeah, just before we kick off,
I was surprised massively.
yeah, absolutely. Just before we kick off today's episode, if you're interested in time loops, we actually did a whole podcast on time loops back at the very start of lockdown. The classics, Groundhog Day, I think Edge of Tomorrow, as well as Happy Death Day, I think were the three we did there. So yeah, check that out as well. As we've done a lot of time loop films before as well. Obviously, Palm Springs last year we did. So yeah, this is another one I'll be adding to the time travel playlist. Check that out. And yeah, thanks to all the support recently. Be sure to check out, as I said, our the last sort of month of the channel has been quite focused on streaming services. So we've done Netflix, a lot of Netflix reviews, and Amazon Prime exclusives. So as I said, Songbird. So yeah, I mean, check out all those videos as well. So mate, if you want to open the floor with your non-spoiler remarks, buddy, I don't have many, so I have to say, but yeah, if you want to kick off.
Well, we had sort of discussed off podcast, what films this is similar to. And of
Yeah.
course, a recent time loop film that came out, probably the most recent that we've seen, was Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti, a Hulu exclusive. And I think this is the closest, I think that's the closest comparison to this film that can be made when it comes to time loop films. And
Yeah.
this movie sort of welcomes us into this established time loop, and then an outsider enters. I think it's probably the second to do that, at least from what I've seen. So, it being the second to, sort of capitalize on that idea of an established time loop, still made it seem fresh to me.
Yeah, 100%. I think, as I said to you off podcast, man, I rewatched the trailer for this and saw a lot of the comments saying it's just a Palm Springs ripoff. But I think if you look at the surface, it is quite different as well. Obviously, I'll mention more of that in spoilers, but they are quite similar, but at the same time, they're quite different. Obviously, this movie makes mention of Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow, but it's a very different film from those, as you said. That this one is where it's a pre-established universe of the time loop. So, in that sense, it is quite original, and of course, it's a teenage romance at heart as well. So obviously, it's a little bit of a more akin to the Groundhog Day maybe than Edge of Tomorrow, of course, or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this movie stars, we've mentioned Catherine Newton, but I think one of the standout here is actually Kyle Allen as Mark. I haven't seen him in anything. I mean, this guy,
No, me neither.
an actor is, you know, an actor hasn't been in much when they don't have a Wikipedia page, and yeah, this guy does not have a Wikipedia page, so he mustn't be in a lot. But I'm amazed he hasn't because he's absolutely phenomenal. He's fantastic.
Yeah, it was star talent immediately.
Oh yeah, I think this guy has the potential to be, on that level of people around his age. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of examples. Potentially, I've sort of put myself in this on the spot here. A Tom Holland esque sort of level.
Yeah,
I think this
I think
guy's
so.
a very talented bloke, very talented. He kind of reminds me of an Asa Butterfield kind of actor.
Because like Catherine Newton is quickly establishing herself as quite
She's
resourceful
rising the ranks. Yeah, she's
in
certainly is.
the kind of films that she's able to take part in. And if we want to talk a little bit about Mark, of course the situation that he's in, he's gotten very used to, so he's having a bit of fun. And I think if I was in his position, I would take absolutely zero life altering risks because you have no idea when it's going to run its course, and I would
Yeah.
be a scared little bitch I'll
So
be
would I.
honest.
I'd be a very scared little bitch. Time loops. It's probably my favorite. My favorite genre, Calum. If we're gonna break it down, I know you're a big fan of the romance. My favorite genre is the time loop romance. Like they're my favorite types of films, and it's one of those things where like if I was actually in Mark's scenario here, I'd just be scared shitless in case the time loop where I decide to do something batshit crazy is actually the reality. Do you know what I mean? Like if you do something where like
Exactly.
you kill an enemy, not saying I would kill anyone, but hypothetically, of course, if you decided to do something very strange, like in this movie, without giving too much away, like drive a steamroller throughout the town, do you know what I mean, or something like, and that's the actual reality. I'd just be scared that I'd have to live with the consequences of doing that really strange act throughout the rest of my life. So it's one of those things as well. I don't think this movie makes reference to them trying to kill themselves to see that would break the time loop. Obviously, that's something in Groundhog Day, which happens with Bill Murray's character. I wouldn't want to try to do that either, just in case. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if the options were live this day forever or kill yourself and be successful in dying, I'd have to see how long I've been, living that sort of utter hell. I mean, Mark seems to be kind of thriving in the situation. I would not whatsoever. I mean, I think maybe with the introduction of Margaret, it makes more sense that you'd have something to drive you a bit more. But I think just the level of meaninglessness that would come from repeating the same day over and over, I just don't know if I could bear it.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a hell in a sense as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it just sounds like a really just eternal misery as well to an extent.
And you sort of mentioned that you love uh, a time loop romance, which I mean I'm surprised by because in this film, Mark's actions are very wholesome. He seems to actively be trying to help people do stuff. He's trying to be a good Samaritan. But in almost every other time loop, like Palm Springs or Groundhog Day, usually the main character is actively creepy.
Yeah.
They use information that they know about the women that they're
Yeah.
trying to romance against them to trick them into a relationship.
Yeah.
So I mean, here it's the only time where I've been like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I think so. A million percent. I think, yeah, when the time that movies, you have to be careful to not come across as creepy. I think that's certainly a thing Phil has in Groundhog Day where it's very creepy to an extent. But
Very.
yeah, I think here Mark is very sweet. He's very wholesome. He's very innocent. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much I love about this film. It's so well shot as well. Like it looks amazing. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it. Like I think it really deserves to have a lot of popularity. It's that good, I think.
I think so, definitely. And being teens ourselves, of course, we watch a lot of teen films, and I think you'd agree that it's sort of rare to see the banter between characters, of a teenage age, is ever charming. It's usually sickening, like in
Yeah.
the kissing booth, or desperate, like the kissing booth. But here, both characters I think are equally likable, and I think that may be the solution to the whole
Yeah.
the whole scenario. Like
Yeah,
I think you need two people that both want to date each other equally. And I think, of course, I think that is the case here, and we'll probably talk about that in the spoilers. I mean, this film is pitched as a romantic comedy time loop film. Like, I don't think we've given anything away, have we?
no, I think so. Like even the it's based off a book, so I'd imagine the majority of people who watch this will have read the book. Obviously we haven't, but or sorry, the short story, I think, or maybe it's the short film. I
Hmm.
can't remember. It's one of the
I
two.
think it's a short story.
Short story, sorry. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think because the romance doesn't come across as too flirtatious or come off too strong. Like firstly, it pre-establishes the Mark character before Margaret's introduced. So I think that just helps sort of break up the film and pace it a bit better. And it's just a really smart film. Like there's a lot here where it breaks down a lot of cliches in time loop movies specifically. And yeah, it does a lot unique as well as being faithful to that kind of genre. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't have any more to say in non spoilers, mate. To be honest with you, it's a very spoiler heavy film. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think so. And just to sort of cap it off finally to talk about the actors, I think that as long as actors are playing teenagers, the breadth of characters you can play is limited. Because of course, we haven't really seen Catherine Newton play anyone over the age of 18, and Kyle Allen, who I think looks a bit older than the character he's playing,
Yeah,
is still convincingly a teenager. But I think you have sort of a narrow range of who you can play. But once again, I think Catherine Newton manages to express like this impressive range, for this
She's so
point in her
good.
career. I
Yeah.
mean, I could count, 3 films that I'm aware of her being in, and I'd say, 2 are bangers and 1 is trash. So I mean, 2 out of 3, very popular films. If 2 out of 3 are massively successful, I think at this young an age, at this point in her career, that's a massive success.
Detective Pikachu, banger.
Detective Pikachu is a fucking stinker. I'm sure we'll talk about it one day, but I
Why did we watch
genuinely
that in the
wanted to claw
cinema?
my eyes out.
What
Well,
was our plan to watch that in the cinema again?
I don't know, because I think that was pre-podcast, wasn't it?
I know. I think it was just the early days of the podcast because I remember around that
Why did
time
we not
Hellboy
review it
came
then?
out because we went to see
Why do we
Hellboy
not
and
review
review
it?
it. What is it?
Yeah,
Was it?
I don't know why we didn't review it.
Hmm. Maybe because at the early days we were kind of, I don't know, maybe we were getting our setting like the groundwork of superhero movies. So we maybe, I don't know, I don't know
Yeah,
why, but yeah.
yeah. I don't think we did too many new releases until last year.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. If you were going to give a rating, buddy, we have the classic mini review formula: massive hit or piece of shit. I'm
Hmm.
sensing a big lean towards the positive. What are you going for?
Yeah, I went into thinking that this kind of film, it had a very cheesy poster. Them sort of holding hands. Across the green pastures. It looked very bright. Very in your face. This is a teen romance film, and I thought either that'll be disgusting or it'll be amazing. And so I went in thinking it's probably going to be shy. But then when I watched it, it was heartwarming, it was romantic, and I was very convinced by the performances. I thought they were really impressive, for actors at their age. Because they're of course not no longer child actors, but they are still in the early years of their careers, and it was
Yeah.
it was so impressive, honestly, that they
Oh yeah.
carried this entire film themselves. So of course, a massive hit.
Yeah, I'd have to concur. I have to agree. It's probably my favorite film of the year so far. It's definitely my favorite film. Probably, I'm probably thinking since no, probably I think it's better than Palm Springs actually for me. I do
Hmm.
think it's better. They're quite different, but I do think this is probably up there with Groundhog Day as my favorite time loop one.
What were your like two favorites of 2020?
I think if we're going to go two favorites of 2020, I would have to go for. That's such a good question because I'm trying to think what came out in 2020.
Because I think five's a bit unreasonable, because there weren't really enough good releases, I think, to say that there were 5 good movies last year.
You know what? I'll have a look here. I'll have a look. I think Wonder Woman 1984 was a really strong finisher of the year, even though maybe it's not the best uh film. I'll have a look here. Many reviews, we covered a lot of 2020 films. I think Palm Springs is definitely a fantastic one. Was Love and Monsters 2020?
Yes, I think it was.
I mean,
I think we talked about it in 2021 though.
I would say if I was going to say a movie that was released in 2020, I'd say Love and Monsters is definitely up there. I would also say that Wonder Woman 1984 potentially as well. But no, I was going to go for 2020. I'd probably say Love and Monsters or Soul. I really liked Soul actually.
Oh.
Yeah. What about
Yeah, we were
yourself?
talking the other day about, what, because I couldn't remember what was the latest film that I gave piece of shit. I think I might have given Soul piece of shit,
Yeah, I think you might have done.
because I didn't
It's
like it
still
whatsoever.
fair enough. Fair enough. What about
But
you?
last year, I would say my 2 favorites were Palm Springs, number one, I'd say, because it felt so fresh and so new. And
Yeah,
there
it
are
did.
similar things here. Of course, it's based on a short story, so I'm not sure when that was released, but that may have been years ago that that this is based on. So that this maybe it's its own material that it's adapting. It's definitely not an intentional copy of Palm Springs. I think calling it a teen Palm Springs may be fair, but implying that it's a rip off, I think's insulting. But
Yeah.
Palm Springs was probably my favorite of last year. Second, Uncle Frank.
Oh, Uncle Frank. I haven't seen that one, but I heard
It's
mention.
another one on Prime,
Yeah,
which I would highly recommend.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think this film is a massive hit. It's a really good one, and Amazon Prime's got a lot of good stuff actually coming out. So yeah.
Hmm.
In regards to spoilers, buddy, do you wanna kick us off?
Well, I think we've discussed the big points within the film, because I think there's a lot of plot here, but I think it can be summarized very very quickly. I think what we talk about is potentially spoilery. but what there is to talk about in spoilers, there isn't a lot of it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
I
makes
know what you
sense,
mean.
but
I know what you mean
I
exactly.
just wanted to talk to you about sort of a trope scene within films, and I'd say especially American films, where there's the logic of parents who force their artsy kids to do something they don't want to do. They're really confident that their kids will be more happy and successful doing something that they're probably not equipped to do, rather than something they already know that they're good at.
Yeah,
And there is another layer here that that there's the financial sort of barrier here. Within films in general, there always is, someone pushing someone to do, a responsible degree, at the expense of their enjoyment. And
yeah,
I've just never understood the logic.
yeah. I've never understood that logic either. I don't know. I think it's a really unfair to put that sort of pressure on the kid for sure. And in this instance, obviously, it gives the backstory that Mark's dad has been fired from his job, but as for the sake of his own pride, he's sort of said that he's I think he left. I think he said he's left the job or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I do think you're right. I think it's a very silly attitude of parents to have that sort of view. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing about we've mentioned obviously Mark's dad there, Margaret's parents, well, rather her mother, given her the backstory with her mother, obviously she's sadly every this day is the day that she dies, so it's kind of a very heartbreaking backstory. But I think it's a very needed backstory to give her that sort of element of humanization, and it's really touching, especially when Mark, after seeing it, like hugs his mother straight after. That's a really emotional scene,
Yeah.
actually, for me. Really great, fantastic.
Yeah, and paired with that realization of backstory is a very poignant epiphany by Mark that I don't think many self-obsessed, lovesick teen characters realize, or people in real
Yeah,
life realize that
yeah,
you're not the center of the universe. You may not even be the most important person in your own life. That there's
definitely.
always going to be someone with a bigger problem, which of course shouldn't invalidate how you feel. It shouldn't invalidate your struggles, but when Mark, his priority was essentially convincing Margaret to be with him, but she had something else deeper going on. So I mean, it was sort of it was an epiphany that I think would give you the consideration to think, not you don't understand everything that's going on in someone else's life.
Yeah, I think that's a really great, way that you put that, buddy. I think that's a really well articulated point, and I think for me, obviously, we've sort of mentioned how the film takes a lot from a lot of different timeless films. At least here, they actually mention Groundhog Day, and they do a lot differently. Of course, in this film, we see Mark, he's goes to the barbers and gets a load of different haircuts. I thought was a really funny trope, but as well, he gets a tattoo and things like that. He does a lot differently to what Bill Murray does in that film.
Weirdly, to mention tattoos, I forgot to mention this in the Riverdale review, but did you notice that Jughead now has a chest tattoo?
I didn't, does he?
Yeah, you just see him when he's like wearing a flowy robe or something, or a kimono, like in his apartment, and then you just see. I think it's a heart or something, but I'm sure we'll go into it if we see.
We
I
will.
mean,
It's
Archie's always getting
Jughead.
his kid off. It's Jughead's turn. You know,
Absolutely by Tom.
but we mentioned how this does sort of borrow elements, and it collates all the best parts of a good time loop film.
It does.
And here, similar to Happy Death Day to You, which I don't think you've had the chance to see,
Not yet.
but it just came on Netflix recently. Which is the discussion of the physics behind why is this time loop happening. And here they give an explanation that it may be a singularity, but then in theory within the film, which I mean, of course, I just have to trust that because I know nothing about physics. But trusting what the film is saying, had Mark traveled across the international date line, it would have become the next day, and he would have in theory broken the time loop. But I don't understand. I understand how that would have broken it for him because he would have entered the next day. I don't know how that removes the singularity from the small town that he was living in.
Yeah, that's a really smart point. I had a lot of theories about how the time loop was formed or how it's going to end. Part of me thought it was, once Mark's friend completes the video game, or once they find the dog. I thought it was maybe going to be something like that. Because obviously there's scenes that keep replaying in
Yeah,
the film. Did you have any
and
theories
also
as to how?
this is a film called. Well, I mean, this is a film called the map of tiny perfect things. So it would have been, I suppose, interesting for it to be a very small, insignificant act that solved this seemingly worldwide crisis.
Yeah, yeah. Like, how did you think the film was going to wrap up? Did you kind of feel like it was going to be that they're stuck in it forever, they both escape it, or what was your head at?
Well, I was kind of confused, in the third act, and I was sort of lost as to how it would end, because it seems to be a worldwide phenomenon, because Mark was unable to escape it. And it was bizarre to me that it seems to be down to two small teens, to two teens in a small town to solve this.
Yeah.
In the end, they had to find the 16 or so perfect events within this small town. But all other things that were in that list of tiny perfect things were things that happened every day without fail. But they had to artificially create this moment at the pool, so it's sort of unlike any other of the events. So it was something that I don't think we could have predicted, especially because, I mean, what was that, like three, four-dimensional cube diagram?
Yeah,
She was like,
that's where it lost me a bit.
she was like recording the times, and then within a few hours, she's decided to like hang it up by a light, and then dangle beads from it, and then I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'll fucking crack this.
Yeah, I know. That's where it lost me a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, like no one could have predicted that ending. Like
Yeah.
they're all. I mean, I thought that there's going to be some sort of culmination where these events are important, because of course it's the title of the film. It's their purpose in life. They're trying to find meaning in this seemingly meaningless existence. So of course that was going to come into it, but I never would have
Yeah.
been like, they need that 16th
Yeah.
event to make
I
up that
know.
four-dimensional cube. I tell you.
Yeah, no, literally, buddy, I'm exactly the same. I saw in the trailer for this film, a lot of people said, the Margaret character, she's terminally ill. That's why she doesn't want the time loop to end, otherwise she'll die. And I kind of feel like that would have been a very interesting concept for the film. Obviously, instead of her, it's her mother. But I don't know. I kind of felt it was awkward because, the time loop in that case, the time loop would be the only time that they would be allowed to be together, really. If Margaret was to die the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that would have been an interesting take. I'm I like to watch films for escapism. Whenever I watch
Yes.
a teen romance, like I want a bit of positivity. So this nice optimistic ending was my ideal scenario, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Plus, I think there's a lot of it's a very big rom-com cliche for one of the partners to be terminally ill. And there's a movie that I've been keeping up to date with recently called, I think it's like All My Life or All One Life or something. It's like
Oh yeah.
it recently came out on DVD or whatever, like the 12th of February, I think. So I might watch that, but I know that's a film that deals with that kind of
The main
thing.
actress from Happy Death Day.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's it. Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's true.
I don't have anything further on the film, Matthew. Do you have anything else?
Just one more thing, buddy, for me. I think there's the romance built here is so sweet. Obviously, Mark makes a. I don't know how he did this, but like there's a date where there's like he organizes a date where like they're in school, but he somehow made it to look like it was like the moon or something like that. So like he's
Yeah, he said
painstakingly
he bribed all of the
bribed.
art students.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
still, I'm
come
amazed.
on.
I'm amazed that he got that done in less than 16 hours. But yeah, apart from that, I think the romance is fantastic. If you're gonna rate it out of 10, buddy, what would you give it?
Again, this is difficult. I mean, I have just recently started to just reassess every single rating I've ever given, being like, well, if I give this an 8 out of 10, and I'm saying it's an 8 out of 10 in regards to all of cinema, I mean that's
Yeah.
just ridiculous, isn't it? But I loved it, And again,
Yeah.
we have to balance. I think enjoyment almost takes the forefront to quality sometimes, and I think with
Yeah.
teen films that's especially relevant, because it is really just how much you enjoy it. It's never going to be high art, but if you really love it, that sort of has a profound effect on you. And I think
Yeah.
when it comes to time loop films, Edge of Tomorrow, very convoluted. I'll be honest, in the bin, don't like it. Happy Death Day, a nice spin on the genre. Horror film, kind of like it. It's okay. Groundhog Day, you know, genre defying, revolutionary, creepy.
Fair
Mid
enough.
tier.
Fair
Then
enough.
I love Palm Springs, again, still creepy, but it was a real comedy, and it was surprising. Going into it, I knew it was time travel affiliated, but like having my mind blown that it was a time loop film. I mean that's maybe a bit hyperbolic, but it was
I know what
it
you
was such a
mean.
fun time. But here, I feel like it does Palm Springs, but it does Palm Springs better.
I think it
It's not
does.
as funny, but it's more sweet, it's heartwarming, it's
Charming. Yeah.
wholesome, and it's more romantic. I think because his intention is to just he wants to find meaning in these tiny perfect things, and then Margaret is this I suppose larger perfect thing within his life that he wants to have a genuine relationship. He's not trying to he's not being Andy Samberg in Palm Springs, who's a bit creepier. And, I think it is difficult to not be creepy in that situation
Yeah.
because I mean naturally, if you find someone attractive, you're gonna accidentally find out information that you wouldn't otherwise. But using it against them, like Phil Connors in Groundhog Day, that's where it gets creepy.
It
Whereas
does.
here, Mark is such a likable character.
Yeah.
Margaret had such a fantastic backstory. I mean, obviously not a positive backstory, but a character, character defining backstory. So I
Yeah.
just thought it was fantastic.
So
I'd
good.
give it a 9.
Yeah, man, I think I have to agree with you. It's a phenomenal film. My favorite of the year so far. One of my favorites in the last year or two. I love this genre. I just love how I said it all the time. It's normal people doing normal people stuff. It's fantastic. There's some really
I
funny
suppose
side.
you don't get more normal people doing more normal people stuff than a time loop because
I
it's the
know.
same day over and
Yeah, I
over.
know, literally, and it has some really charming side characters. It's got a really nice message, and I just love that the film. It makes you think about how you've lived your life, like just different epiphanies and things like that. It's a really well acted. Love Kyle Allen as Mark. Love Catherine Newton as Margaret. It's got to be a 10, man. It's phenomenal. I
Oh,
absolutely
wow.
love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. One of my favorites. Um, but yeah, I mean that wraps up another mini review. Thanks very much, Callum, for introducing me to
Thank
another
you.
film. Appreciate that, and yeah, thanks for all the support recently, guys. Really do appreciate that a lot. Hope you guys are all safe and well. Your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, everyone, and bye bye.
Bye bye.